a dictator from the Middle East. Hey, relax, guy. I'm just your average Joe. Take a rest.
The people of Canada will not be devalued like this.
South Park's humor has long spared no one. Presidents, politicians, celebrities, entire groups of people, religious communities, ideological movements, and social strata all fall victim to satire. The latest episode, which focused on Donald Trump, once again sparked a flurry of conversation. The episode was harsh, dark, and incredibly poignant, and it took aim at all sides. The creators have long been known for their ruthless style, and in this episode, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, became their target. The television series publicly flogged politicians, and the consequences were ruthless. Those who considered themselves untouchable found themselves ridiculed in front of millions of viewers with no obvious way to restore their reputation. If you have power, Matt and Trey can easily turn you into a joke, and their blow is sometimes stronger than any scandal. It should not be forgotten that South Park is not just a cartoon, but an institution that has had the right to insult and expose for decades. The 27th season started with a political bang. From the very first frames, it is clear that this is not light-hearted satire for the sake of laughter, but a deliberate dismantling of symbols of power. Washington is shown in this story not as a center of power and dignity, but as a circus ring ruled by clowns driven by their own egos and chaos. In the town of South Park itself, the situation is heating up. More and more locals are joining a united wave of protest against what they call presidential oppression. People in the town say that they must not lose heart. They must defend their beliefs to the end. The season premiere, entitled Sermon on the Mount, immediately puts Donald Trump in the spotlight. His second presidency in this version is a continuous spectacle of chaos, where decisions are made not for the public good, but to satisfy his own vanity. He strides through the corridors of the White House, criticizing his portraits, complaining that his face is not large enough in them, and demanding that everything around him be about him. It is both funny and painfully accurate. Power is presented as pure vanity on display. The surprises only increase. Trump is shown in an absurd context alongside Satan, a plot twist that at first seems childish and ridiculous, but on closer inspection turns into a neat satire on exaggerated masculinity, ambition, and inner insecurity. This is not just a caricature. It is a director's joke with a sharp sting. And before the viewer has time to catch their breath, the episode switches to Kristi Noem. The episode, Got a Nut, opens with a reminder of her past scandal with a puppy, without mitigation or embellishment, straight to the face of the public narrative. But South Park goes beyond simply exposing individual actions. The show mockingly dissects both the excuses and the PR stunts of politicians who try to stifle the scandal and wait out the storm. Matt and Trey do the opposite. They bring to light what the authorities are trying to bury and turn it into theatrical trolling, sometimes bordering on provocation. The creator's action was also symbolic when the official account of the series changed its avatar to an image of Noem. This is no longer a joke, but a demonstrative gesture, almost a psychological tactic. The sharper the reaction of politicians, the stronger the show's response. The writers go even further. Mr. Mackey, a longtime school counselor, suddenly becomes an IC employee, and scenes of storming heaven turn institutions into a farce. The show demonstrates how bureaucratic mechanisms, operating on the principle of force, lose their common sense and become a threat, which is both amusing and frightening. Other figures also come under attack. Vice President J.D. Vance appears to be a pathetic sycophant, willing to humiliate himself for his own benefit. Tech moguls, Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook, and the like, appear ridiculous, clinging to their importance. Religious images are used not for spiritual purposes, but for legal and commercial disputes, where even Jesus is drawn into legal formalities rather than a mission of salvation. The episode itself was risky, but what made it even more resonant was that it came out almost immediately after the signing of a huge contract with a major studio for a new series. Instead of calming down and playing it safe, the authors seemed to add fuel to the fire. Legal threats, pressure from regulators, and criticism from all sides did not stop them. The 27th season sends a clear message. No one and nothing is safe from satire. Politicians, billionaires, the media, and religion all become convenient material for sharp and uncompromising trolling. The reaction on the internet was immediate. Memes, scene fragments, and quotes spread like wildfire, forming a field for heated debate. Social platforms turned into an arena where defenders of the show's boldness argued with those who saw it as nothing more than provocative. At the same time, any heated reaction only fueled interest. The negativity itself worked as advertising. As a result, South Park only reinforced its status as a cultural indicator that is not afraid to touch on taboos. The reaction of politicians and the media was not long in coming. Those who found themselves in the crosshairs first dismissed it, then protested vehemently, and some tried to take the usual route, paying lawyers and invoking the let's forget and move on procedure. But in the age of social media and hype, this works less well than it used to. Every harsh statement, every demand to apologize and take it down only added fuel to the fire. Users saw it as confirmation of the power of satire. The audience shared excerpts, mashups, and memes. Funny clips turned into viral clips with millions of views, and the discussion moved from television to endless Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok feeds. It is noteworthy that the commercial aspect only reinforced the effect. A huge contract with a major studio gave the creators freedom, and, it seems, the confidence that they would not be crushed by lawsuits or pressure from advertisers. Instead of calming down, the authors used the resource in the most risky episodes, as if experimenting with how far they could go while public resonance worked in their favor. This sparked a debate about where the line between art and irresponsible provocation lies. Critics scolded, supporters applauded. The phenomenon of reverse PR is also interesting. The more the opponents shouted, the wider the audience became. People came to watch not only because they liked the satirical perspective, but also out of curiosity. What have they done this time? As a result, the series did not so much lose advertising coverage as gain new coverage through discussions, quotes, and parodies. Preliminary data showed a surge in commercial indicators. Clip downloads, podcast discussions, and meme circulation all worked in the same direction. The legal side looked theatrical. Threats of lawsuits, petitions for accountability to the audience, public statements by officials. In the end, it became more of a media spectacle than a real legal battle. It often happened that lawyers and PR specialists joining the process only increased the visibility of the conflict, preventing it from being resolved. But there were exceptions. Some figures genuinely attempted to use existing legal mechanisms to restrict the distribution of materials. These attempts ran into the difficulty of proving direct damage and the freedom of expression protected by artistic satire. The international reaction is a separate chapter. The series quickly spread beyond the borders of the United States. The politicized humor was understood by most foreign viewers, and local media eagerly picked up the material, adapting it to their own context. In some countries, the discussion focused not so much on a specific character as on the phenomenon of universal satire, capable of attacking politicians regardless of the audience's tastes. This gave rise to comparisons with classic examples of political caricature and even academic articles on the contemporary role of comedy in public discourse. There were also many interesting developments on the economic front. Partners and advertisers, fearing reputational risks, partially distanced themselves, but many brands, on the contrary, began to use the hype in their campaigns. Collaborations, humorous integrations, and merchandise with references to the episode appeared. For the creators themselves, this meant that criticism does not always equate to a loss of profit. Sometimes it is a direct source of attention and income. Different currents also emerged within the fan community. Some applauded the boldness, believing that without such a radical approach, political comedy loses its meaning. Others warned of a fading of ethics. When jokes go beyond human dignity, what is comedy worth? The discussions turned into debates about whether satire should have moral responsibility or whether its task is to uncompromisingly reflect power. Finally, an important point is the personality of the authors. Matt and Trey traditionally play the role of people's critics, and their new series is another step in their constant search for boundaries. They do not try to be correct. On the contrary, their method is to unceremoniously expose cultural wounds. This attracts those who are tired of political correctness and repels those who expect a more delicate tone. However, it is precisely this conflict that drives the show's popularity. The more heated the debate, the longer the attention span. What does this mean for politics and culture as a whole? Firstly, satirical shows remain a powerful tool for public control. Secondly, we can expect increasingly bold and risky attacks in the future, as the economic model and cultural demand encourage precisely such projects. At the same time, society will be forced to discuss where laughter ends and real trauma begins.